today, October 17th at 4 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the regular session minutes of September 19, closed session minutes of September 19, account payable registers September 7th, 11th, 18th, 20th, 22nd, 26th, 27th, October 1, October 3, Treasurer Land Trust Amendment, the Ajax Global Contract, MHTN Master Athletic Facility Planning, Innovations Ed Strategic Plan Assistance, LEA specific licenses, personnel information, and August and September revenues.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Second. Okay, do we have any discussion on any of these items?
Not one of these, no, thanks.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. We will move on to 3.01 employee group chats.
Sorry about that, this is my first time. I'm Shannon Hayes, I represent PCA with Mary. Quick note for you, I just wanted to say good evening and a quick word of what we're working on, how things are going. On behalf of PCA, I would like to welcome Chief Human Resource Director Craig Jensen and state that we are looking forward to working with Mr. Jensen. And hope he enjoys March and all the snow. We appreciate meeting with the Superintendent of Human Resources and continue to work on our relationship and accomplishments. We continue to discuss conferences, reflecting on how they're going, and we'll do our best to reflect the demands of the parents and teachers alike. I'm happy the ongoing discussion relating to Flex Fridays, and I'm grateful that we are able to include all employees, not just teachers, to make it work for all those involved. First quarter ends this week, thankfully. PCHS fall sports teams are looking forward to state competitions, including girls soccer, which is this Friday, October 28th at the Real Salt Lake Stadium.
Go Miners.
Mountain bike races this weekend in Cedar City. Go Miners. Football begins next week. I believe it's the 27th here. Last but not least, volleyball toward the end of October. I don't know the details about the cross country program. PCA would like to thank the board for their continued representation and ongoing conversations about our kids. Appreciate you guys and enjoy the fall break.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Cross country, the girls team all qualified and they're going next Monday. And 3 boys qualified. So, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a soccer game Friday night.
Saturday day.
At the Real Stadium.
Yeah, Monday was 12:30.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Yeah.
I'm flying out on Friday night, but maybe I'll go and then go from there to the airport.
You worked it.
Yeah,
So
that would be awesome.
Hi, Jen Ramsey, PCCEA. We are doing fantastic with the ESPs. We were looking at job listings today and I have never seen so few job listings. So I just really want to thank you all for what you did because it's helping out everybody. You know, I think people are finding that they can get subs, people are more willing to help out. So I think it just really works on my moms and we really appreciate that. And we haven't been hearing much from our ESPs, so we'll take that as a really positive sign. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, you want to do student council?
Yeah. All right, so we had our homecoming week, which was the last week in September. On that Tuesday, we had our powder puff game, which was a group of girls playing flag football. We had really good attendance from students, and it was really amazing to see the teams play, and they played fair this year, which was really nice. Maybe. On Wednesday, we had our outdoor buff game, which was guys playing volleyball. And again, we had super great attendance from the student section. And on the Thursday, we had the bonfire, again, super great attendance from the students. Then Friday, we had the pep rally, and then we had the tailgate before the homecoming game, and we had the game. We won the homecoming game, which was super amazing. And then we had the dance, which was on that Saturday. And we had really good attendance from all the grades that were able to go. It was freshmen and up. The venue had limited parking, but it went pretty smoothly with the shuttles going back and forth between Silver Lake Lodge and Snow Park Lodge. And that is it for homecoming week, but we have our Halloween week events. So Monday the 30th, we have Zombie Night, which is basically a giant game of tag. Students always love this event. It's one of the best attended events we hold. And then on November 1st, we have our Halloween movie night. We haven't decided on a time or a movie yet, but as soon as I hit that, I can let you guys know. It is at the high school.
It goes all dark and stuff, right?
Yeah.
People are on the ones. Great.
It's great on CTO report.
I got an email again.
So last month, we talked about the internal measurement of where the scores were on our student proficiency. This month, we're talking about our school accountability indicators. One, unfortunately, they are not available for us to actually look at the report cards, and they will be available November 1st is the updated latest date. So we're just going to do a quick review and point out a couple of trends that we're seeing, because we have noticed some patterns and performance highlights. So there we go. That's a picture of the school report card. This is last year's school report card, K-8. One change in the school accountability system as we're waiting for the new report cards this year is that there are no longer grades posted on them. That was changed. The district level report card will be separated K-8 and 9-12. So until realignment, we don't have a match, a perfect match on our district report card. However, each individual school gets their own report card that looks very similar to this. The TSI categories that we got criticized for in the legislative audit report, those categories, we're also still waiting for the updates of those, but we're watching and being very careful, and all schools are intervening and working on those issues right now. See the headline there? We're all paying very close and careful attention there. They have not been released yet. On the report card, you can see on the top half, there are 4 quadrants there. And it's a bit interesting because they list out the quadrants as achievement, growth, English learner progress, and early literacy. In the 9-12 report card, that 4th quadrant is, it's the college readiness, which includes graduation rate. It includes AP, participation and pass rate, concurrent enrollment, and CTE pathways. Let's see here. The thing that's interesting about the school report card that is interesting to capture is on the bottom of the school report card, it lists the points that contribute to the overall final scores on the report cards that they used to give the letter grades for. But now they use to just rank the schools and calculate the performance categories, right? You would think that those 4 categories on the bottom would match the 4 quadrants on the report card, but they do not. So achievement matches the first quadrant. Growth is in the top right-hand quadrant. English learner progress is in the bottom left quadrant, but then growth of the lowest 25% is still part of that second quadrant up there. So it's a little weird when you look at it, but we will pull that all apart as we are considering all of these things. So that's just a reminder of how the report cards are set up. Okay, here's some highlights and trends that we have seen in the early progress. Our ELA math and science proficiency district-wide, our students test at 10 to 15% above the state average. If you look down below that, our RISE proficiency strength, we saw increases in both English language arts and science. Math saw a slight decrease, but is still well above state average. In the center column, English language learner proficiency, which is about the WIDA test that the students take in the middle of the year, January to February. About 20% of our students reach proficiency on WIDA, partly due to the new cut score. So we went from 480 multilingual learners, and that went down by almost 100 students. So we are attending to that through all the system. All the teachers are working on that to make sure that those students still get proper supports in their regular classrooms. In the middle of that second column on the bottom, English language learner growth, the adequate growth measures did not change. So when it says it remained the same and meant the way that they're measuring it stayed at the same level of requirements to progress. And there are significant increases throughout our system. So our kids did well. So yes, they tested out partly because of the cut score, but then they got progress on their proficiency, our multilingual learners. So that was impressive. The third column is reading on grade level. We have overall increases in students reading on grade level. In spite of that change in the proficiency cut score that we talked about last month, where those Dibbles and Acadians, we looked like we were green and yellow, and we were all happy because all of our third graders were all reading, and we're like, the Lexile cut is way over to the far point. And we're adjusting to that, and we're going to make sure that we're moving kids there. And that was a challenge throughout the whole state because everybody was surprised by that. And then we'd like to shout out Poland for their multilingual learner student growth and Trailside for early literacy. And we'll have more definite details once all of the data is confirmed. Questions so far?
I just have a quick question. Thank you. This is great. When you say increase, are we talking within our district? I know last time Andrew alluded to this. We see in some of the highlights and trends comparison to the rest of the state, which when we're above that in certain areas, that's great. What about within our district?
If I
Is there
say that it
increasing-
increased, I mean in our district.
Okay.
Our student performance increased.
Okay, so ELA math science proficiency, would I assume that we highlighted that we're above state averages? Do you know about?
And ELA
Within our
and science for
district.
us increased as a district overall.
Okay, okay,
And math overall as a district saw a slight decrease from us last year.
yeah,
But it's gonna be around 1% once everything finishes out.
okay,
Okay, now on those secondary report cards, we talked about how that final quadrant is about college readiness indicators. And one of the things that's really terrific here in Park City is that our subpopulations and subgroups are being extremely successful compared to the state. And we wanted to, so our populations for our multilingual learners, our Latinx populations, our economically disadvantaged are maxing out. They're not getting 100% of their points, but there's like 26 points available in that section, and they're getting well over 20 points in those subgroups, and that is very impressive. And here is, that's why the principal of Park City High School is here to share another reflection of that success that happened this past week that they were informed of.
Before we
Yes.
get into the high school success,
Mhm.
so I just need some clarification on
Okay.
on the ELL proficiency. You're making a statement that 20% reached it partly due to a new cut score, which sounds like the same. They changed the cut score proficiency in ELL as well as early literacy. Is that right? So you're saying less people achieve proficiency because they changed the standard?
So in reading proficiency for the whole group, the state clarified the way that we've been looking at it. When our students test, they go red, yellow, green, or blue. And we've counted internally to us, green and blue as being proficient or advanced proficient. The state USBE went back and they correlated grade level Lexile score to where that should be. And in most of those grades for early literacy, it was well over into the blue, what most districts were counting as advanced proficient. So everybody has had to adjust. So last month when I was here, I said we were 77% for our internal record keeping in the green and the blue. But the state number, if we correlate to that Lexile reading on grade level, not just proficiency on Acadians or Dibbles, then that cut score puts us down in the low 50s. So we are working to get our kids moved over because we want those reading scores to increase. The percent of students that are reading on grade level.
So the catalyst for you to get better scores is because they've changed the standard?
No,
No, I'm saying that we and a lot of the other districts in the state were saying, oh, they tested as proficient on the tool that we've been provided by the states. We had proficient and advanced proficient. And 77% of our students were testing as proficient or advanced proficient. USBE went back and said, we need to look more closely at proficiency and advanced proficiency to see where the Lexile is that they're really reading on grade level. We need to pin that down. And it turned out that that pin was not at the beginning of the proficient. It was over into advanced proficient. So all around the state, everyone, we're realizing that we don't have 77% of our students reading on grade level. We have to take care of our students and make sure that we're moving them over into that advanced proficient where that Lexile cut is.
So the 20, sorry, this says 20%. So what does that refer to?
So now you're
Not
talking about
50%.
English language learners. So now we've stopped talking about reading proficiency because all that talking was in the third column of reading on grade level. So now in the center column,
Right,
so the
so-
WIDA test is the test that all the multilingual learners take mid-year.
Yeah.
It scores in 4 categories: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In the old way, they had to get a 5.0 composite. So an average of a 5.0. They changed it to be a 4.2 composite with a 3.5 in speaking. So they found out that looking at the surrounding states, that our level of rigor for testing out on competency on the WIDA was much more rigorous as the state of Utah compared to other states. So they changed it in the new ESEA federal authorization. So that got changed. So some of our kids would have tested out by reaching the 5.0 composite, but a bunch of our kids got out because it was slightly lower. Does that help clarify? What else can I answer?
Yeah, so what would that have looked like without the new cut score?
I didn't look at that, and I can find out.
Great.
Okay.
Then
And-
last question for
Sorry.
me, which is kind of a philosophical one. You know, there's different ways to look at this data set. One is relative and one is absolute, right? I hear a lot about relative to the state, we're 10% above the state average. And I guess my question for you as the leader of the teaching and learning organization is how and this is a pretty diverse state in terms of communities, right? We have some very urban communities, we have some very rural communities. I think everyone agrees that Park City is unique, even within that diversity. What is it? Why is it even? I mean, I understand there's a benchmark, but what is our true goal here, right? I mean, I hope that it's not to be 10% better than a rural district in southern Utah or
even a state average.
yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to make sure that our goal is not to benchmark ourselves to the rest of the state, because I think the community's expectations.
Yeah, and I
Are very
would say that it's a benchmark for us. I think it's just to contextualize where we are. As someone who's joined the district and wants to be a major force in having our team assist teachers in having the students be able to read proficiently. Overall, we do very, very well at that, but we have some places in our system where we've been flat in our performance.
Yeah.
So I will be happy when every student is reading on grade level. I will be happy when every student is proficient in math, science, and ELA. Every is a big word, but we have it written down that we want every student to graduate from high school, and we're pretty dang close. So if it can be done anywhere, it can be done here. So that is the goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but I think to me, it's much more important to get everyone proficient.
Yes.
And have those numbers that are in the 70s at 100 in the high 90s, then we're 10% above an average. It's arbitrary.
Yeah, and as hard as it was throughout the state, there was a lot of rippling and frustration with that reading on grade level, particularly for that third grade. But I think it's a wake-up call for us, because we can't be complacent by saying that we're at 77%, because we're not. And we have to look to our subgroups and populations, because in order for us to significantly improve those statistics, those are the populations that can't have flat performance, they've got to move. And we have to increase our expertise so we can assist those children and children.
We also have to really educate our families about I like the new report cards, because they are adding some things to look at. So I like that. But we have a large opt-out, and that's a differentiator here that's different than most other districts in Utah. With high school last year, we had almost
About 20% opt-out.
opt out of taking the test. So if you have a high achieving population group that's not taking the test, you're not getting an accurate reflection of how the students are doing. So educating parents, the kids put their efforts into the tests that benefit them, the ACT, the SAT, the AP tests, because they're getting potentially college credit for that. They're doing enrollment course finals. But when it comes to a state benchmark, they're not going to, if you're seeing your child being fatigued, you're more likely to opt them out of the state test. However, the way the new ESEA is working, we have 95%, right? You have to have 95% participation. Anything under that, kids that aren't participating count as a 0 against our score. So they don't count as, they don't
For the
disappear.
federal designations,
For
they
federal,
will be
right.
out for the state.
Okay.
Yeah, we did verify.
So do you think maybe if we, and I don't know if others would agree, what I'm hearing, one request that would help me is if we're looking at ELA and when you're presenting, and not to spend too much time on putting these together, I'd rather you do the great work you're doing, but instead of seeing what's happening about state averages, I think it would be really great to start seeing how the trends are working in our school and over time. And if you need to explain the new pet scores and the, how the measurement has changed, which in fact affects our numbers, I appreciate that explanation. Maybe if we kind of focused on that in the presentation.
See that trend
Yeah.
is really important.
Mhm.
And frankly, I'd like to hear more about what the actual plan is to
Yeah.
close the gaps.
Yeah.
But can we go back to the opt-out thing for just a second? You implied that people opting out because they have so much going on, they want to, that's just not practicing. Is that conjecture? Is that, do we have data? And just, well, no, I'm just curious about how much feedback we get on that and what we really know about that population, because that's really important. If we've got 1 in 5 who aren't even testing and they're all high achievers, I mean, that's a completely different spin on this matter.
Right. Yes, the counseling team does have a view into some of the, we aren't by law really able to ask why people are opting out. There is just a parental right. And there are some people that just don't believe in state testing. There are some people that don't believe in standardized testing. There's some people that don't like their kids tracked and monitored in that way, even with MTSS, we get pushback sometimes. So some of it's just parent education, right? Just educating on what it's being used for and why. And then the other thing to remember as a Board of Education is Utah does not have, when you're saying proficient, at least me, being from a different state, I always think of minimum or basic proficiency. That's not how Utah is running its program. So the Common Core is not the basic level of I'm, just learning to read as proficient. Your proficient level is a fairly high bar to reach nationally. So again, if you compare nationally, 58% sounds abysmal until you see that actually compares to the 80th percentile or 82nd percentile nationally. Then you feel a little bit better, right? So part of it is you need to look at kind of the context of those and to remember.
I think all that context
Right.
is really important, yeah.
That does help to clear because we are not a low, some states just go to basic bare minimum. We are not a state that does that. The Common Core standards that they're testing against are quite rigorous. So that's important to note. And things do change, right? Like the assessment environment does change every 5 years, right? We kind of do a recalibration of what the assessment's going to be, what the test scores are going to be, and that's why it's harder to get the trend lines because every 5 years they go out by state law for a new best price product, right? So there are a lot of things like that, but always, these are all really important and it helps us do the thermometer and kind of the where are we right now, but it's only one picture, right? It's only based on the standardized tests. Education is always greater than the sum of its parts, and we can see that in the outcomes, and we can see that in where the kids are going, and we can see that in how many schools they're getting into. And the idea, when you're talking about equitable outcomes, is providing a system, an inclusive system in which the doors are not closed to anything, that where the kids want to end up, they have been able to end up because they've had these rich experiences, whether that's through classroom dialogue, whether that's through the projects that they've created, through the field trips and travel they've done. All of those things make up a whole education. It's not just a math test in April.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm certainly not expecting that, but that's what we're being presented with right now.
Right.
So that's why we're talking about it.
And the reason I feel so badly that our timing is off on the meeting, because once the data is available publicly, then it's so much easier to talk about. It's really hard to just talk about trends without actually seeing the data. But because it's embargoed, we really didn't want to break the embargo. Because we don't want the newspapers being the first people to find out how, right? We still want to get to look at our data.
So I don't want to be a horse, but as a parent of a 4th grader who is not an English language learner, who does not fall into any of those categories that you mentioned previously, but who has struggled with reading. She was in the kindergarten class that got sent home, and God bless Miss Yeager for everything she tried to do on Zoom. And I see that whole cohort of kids, maybe having bigger challenges for it than others, trying to get a whole bunch, when you say there's the reading on grade level standard, that sounds like a big lift, but I'm just thinking of it from my perspective of one kid. So what are the tactics, what are the strategies to help?
So, all of our students getting instruction in their tier one, every school, every elementary school has an interventionist. Any students who are not getting it during their tier one, which includes reteaches, or small group instruction, which is their tier two instruction, right, by the teacher, and that's when the interventionists start coming in with a multi-tiered system of support. And then students are still struggling, and that's also where students with IEPs are getting support, and they are getting tier three interventions and support. So we are making sure that we'll have middle of the year indicators so that we can see for students who are not grade level yet, what the progress is from beginning of the year to middle of the year. So that if we haven't made progress by then, that we are changing whatever we've got to do so they can make progress. So yeah, that's
It
a
is
big
fantastic.
picture.
Where are we on,
That's our structure.
where are we on with interventionists? Are they still being split between the elementary schools?
No, so we have 3 interventionists at each elementary. 3 interventionists.
And what's the role that's being split?
Dean,
The D.
disciplinary dean for a wellness program.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's great. These are the right questions. So speaking to a part of our system where students are making progress and being recognized and celebrated, the advanced placement has some recognitions.
Yeah, so this year, AP and College Board rolled out a new program called the AP on School Honor Roll. So it started this month. And it's really established to broaden some of the AP classes and curriculum to more students so that we can offer to more students. And there's 4 levels of distinction that AP is offering: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And in order to qualify, you have to meet at any particular level. You have to make sure that all 3 criteria that they've given us, we have to qualify for. The 3 criteria are college culture, college credit, and college optimization. In college culture, we have to have at least 40% of our students taking at least one AP class during their 4 years on our campus. And for us, our campus, we have 84% of our students take at least one AP class.
Opportunity, in other words, for 84% of the kids are taking at least one class. That's amazing.
So then we have college credit. We have to have, in order to qualify for the AP honor roll, you have to have at least 25% of those students passing at least one AP class. And our pass rate is at 76%. So that's well.
It's amazing, right?
And then college optimization, we have to have at least 2% of our students taking 5 or more AP exams or tests during their time at college. And we have 30
Spread across the 4 grades.
yeah. And then we have 35%. So, so we are, and so the criteria that they've said, we are qualified as what's called the platinum. We're going to be getting a list of all of the schools that are at that level within, in November. So we can actually see, and I don't anticipate any other school in Utah is going to be on that list. So.
I'm sure at least one of them will, Roger, but I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Sorry.
84% is a big number.
That is a big.
That is a big number.
So,
And what that really means, so again, it's not just, even though it's about an AP test, it's really not about an AP test, right? It's about creating the culture that students believe that they can take a class that is of interest to them, whether it is through their DLI program to qualify for dual, biliteracy, skill of biliteracy, or whether it is because they really love chemistry and they really want to push themselves in that course, right? So the idea is, and I think you had represented, just like you said, representative population.
yeah.
Well, so that,
Oh,
yeah,
you
that
did
was,
still go into
Yeah.
that.
yeah, I was gonna say that.
And so in addition to the platinum award, we're also awarded what's called the Access Award. And this honor is awarded to schools who encourage low-income students or underrepresented minority students to take AP exams, AP courses. And they have to take, those underrepresented groups have to take the course at the same rate that our general population students are taking. So that means that our underrepresented have to take it at 84%. They have to pass. And we, I don't know, we haven't gotten all the final reports, but we know that at least one of our underrepresented groups took at least one test or course proportional to our schools student population, which is really impressive. But I want to also stress that AP is only one component. We also have concurrent enrollments. And last year, our students earned over 3,100 credit hours. 500 students took 3,000, over 3,000 courses. And this year, as of right now, even just after the first semester, we're up to 3,600 credit hours that our students are taking. So, I mean, AP is one component. The college, the concurrent enrollments, the level of rigor that's happening throughout our district is high, because our students can't come to us and all of a sudden just make that leap to this success. So I want to say that the work that we're doing throughout the district is really impressive.
And those numbers that you shared today, those have consistently gone up each year.
Yeah, I've been really struggling to get that pass rate up from 76. I mean, I've been really trying to get it up to 80%.
But you are widening
But
the
we
pipeline,
we
and
have-
so the pass rate
we
will
have-
come later,
we-
widen the pipeline.
That's what
widen
we've
the
done.
pipeline.
We've increased,
It's doing the right thing.
I think it's about 40% more students are now taking evening classes since that. That's what
We're processing it.
And that has been with intentional focus. That hasn't just happened organically, right? It's because the counselors and the teachers are inviting, what we call inviting the kids, right? It's letting the kids know, we see you, we believe in you, we want you to know you can, there's no prerequisite, you can try this, you can take this, and then bolstering the success, you know, and the dream big, you know, getting some academic content vocabulary ahead so that you don't walk in and feel lost, right? So all those are very intentional culture builders at the school, and that's why you're getting really great results. And you widened the pipeline, and you did still go up 2% from the year before's pass rate. We went from 72, 74, 76. So you actually have grown that year by year. So that, and coming out of the pandemic and everything, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
What's the senior class?
What's
The class, how many seniors do we have?
I have 402, I believe. It's right about,
in the middle.
it is, it's right at 400. Last year we had 404 and 341 of them took it. So this year, oh no, sorry, I'm right at 420 seniors. But that's how many are enrolled right now, but we don't know what that graduation is. Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
you bet.
Mr. Tanner.
Good afternoon, this is the board operations update for the 17th of October, 2023. Buildings and grounds is fully staffed and operations are running smoothly at all the schools. Most of the Eckerd Hill Middle School gym will be returned to service next week, just in time for the snowy weather. We planned it that way. Signage, curb paint, flashing solar powered crosswalks are being installed for student safety and Comstock. We have 4 EV charging stations that are now operational in front of the high school finally. An RFSQ was completed for district-wide athletic master facility planning last week. And you ratified that contract from HDM tonight. A 3-year extension to the interlocal agreement governing current campus athletic fields will be presented to the Park City Municipal Council on the 2nd of November. And ops completed drafts of a facility development policy and environmental regulation governance plan as recommended by the board. Transportation, we have 2 drivers in training and 2 previously trained drivers that we will hopefully bring online very soon. 3 Park City High School staff members are in training with a plan to drive their teams or support special events for high school. Transportation IT are engineering a data flow into Power School that will enable swift K-12 communication by bus route. And we anticipate that being online very soon. And work is progressing well on the Zonar system that will allow parents to look at the bus locations and have that open online very soon as well. I'll talk about the Valley transportation issue at the end of the brief. Child nutrition service is fully staffed, operations running smoothly, and John reports that morale is very high. They're working on many new scratch recipes now with the new equipment, and they're being tested and pushed out onto the menu. The Eckerd Hill Middle School kitchen will return to service next Monday with hot meals about a week after that, after the staff gets trained on the new equipment. And the McPolin Elementary outdoor walk-in freezer project is underway. Human resources, we're glad to see our new chief human resources officer, Craig, is spinning up nicely in this position. And the EMS job classification study is coming towards a close with still a few residual pieces where we can see. Our first security committee meeting of the school year was held this morning. We had a great event. The AI instant alert system, AGIX, is working well and now being used during drills in most of their schools. The RFP for AI camera-based firearms detection platform was awarded to Zero Eyes, and we voted on the acceptance of that contract tonight. We're waiting notice of award on House Bill 61 grant application package, where we applied for $1.5 million worth of security funding. We also applied for an ancillary HB 61 grant package that will allow our newly appointed school safety specialists to get some compensation for their services. Internal threat assessment, CSTAG is called, will be conducted for all of our admins on the 13th October meeting. They haven't attended that already. And we're studying second floor railing enhancements at Eckerd High School for additional student safety. So that's right after the operations piece. But okay, from the Deer Valley transportation issue, we looked at that more detail, and we felt that we didn't have the information we needed, so we put out a survey. That survey came back and basically mirrored what we were observing. We had about 25 parents out of 61 completed the survey, so we had 41% response rate. 15 students would ride the bus at least 50% of the days if the bus was restored to the service that was originally there, and that's the numbers about that we were seeing before. Exactly 50% of the parents polled preferred option A, which was the original route, versus option B, which we presented to them, which was a modified route, which would save us some time. If only option B, however, was provided, only 8 students would reportedly ride the bus at least 50% of the days. So 40% of the polled parents would be willing to pay a modest fee to enhance the bus service in Virginia Valley. So basically what that's telling us is what we have observed in the past, that even though people are willing, the numbers aren't there under the current route structure to support a funded route. So we're, as you heard me report, that our driver numbers are starting to become healthy. What our commitment is to look at the routes in Deer Valley to see if we can split up the elementary, middle school, high school routes that are servicing Deer Valley and consolidate those with other routes that would guarantee state funding for those routes.
And is that the modified route?
Yeah, the modified route was one that if we didn't get our driver numbers healthy, we thought that we could just stretch our force to allow for that modified route to almost get as high in Deer Valley as possible. But as
And that didn't get us to the 10.
right, that doesn't get us the
Right.
number we need to get that additional funding. So
The first route does, the unmodified route, you had 15, you said?
yes, but we would have to, those 15 are between the 3 different routes we got going up there. So it's not just 15 for any one bus ride, right? It might be 5, this one, might be 2, this one. And so in order for us to guarantee that funding, we would have to consolidate those stops
Right.
in Deer Valley into some other route to allow it to be funded. The problem there, though, is now that you're expanding the length of the other routes,
Right.
right? By making that accommodation, but we think that we can make that accommodation, make that work. So that's going to be our plan of attack, to study that
Okay.
as our driver numbers get healthy. We think we're going to be bringing 2 drivers on right away that are pre-trained. And we have 2 in the pipeline right now, and we'll be waiting about a month. So hopefully we'll be able to have a better conversation next month about progress towards this.
Okay.
Great work on that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'd also add, thank you for all the work you've done for safety for kids. You know, I think it's definitely, having seen what we had before you arrived and what we have now, it's night and day, and, you know, it's impossible to do everything that we can to, guarantee safety is impossible, but I think you really made a difference. And so we appreciate, I mean, I appreciate it as a parent. and as board members, so thank you, because I think it's been really well done.
Yeah, and access has changed a little bit, but the kids are, it seems, especially at the high school. I mean, that access new to our car thing every day, run the car. Did you bring your car? Bring your car. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we go back to one thing real quick? Sorry, just you said something about the some potential parents would be prepared to pay a small fee. What was the proposal with that?
Well, we just said a modest fee, we didn't put a number on it. Our concern with that is equity, that there might be some parents that can afford it, some parents can't, that if we charge, even though it's a modest fee, always blocking some people out, that can't afford it. And then I know that's been kind of a key here, that
The idea being was the potential that the families themselves would subsidize the cost of. Right.
All right.
All right, it's short, because I knew we had a longer academic focus tonight, so I'm always excited about. I wish it wasn't on top of data, it would be more fun. I feel like it's kind of answer to me the year, but the dashboard does have that. So look at our dashboard. It is next. A good one. Always we're aligning to the mission and vision of the district. That's always the North Star, and then the strategic direction or the pillars of academic success. Excellent personnel, leadership, communication, community alliances underlie each of the initiatives, including the educational outcomes, the equitable outcomes. In light of what's happening in our world, we're reminded of our mission and vision, our inclusive environment, and why it is so important that every member of our diverse community feels safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy and welcomed. And really trying to foster that. As a district, I think the board's come out and said very clearly, we unequivocally condemn any form of hate, discrimination, or prejudice, including anti-Semitism, or any other manifestation of discrimination targeted at individuals or groups. And I think that kind of footprint or mindset is what we need to keep pushing forward as we're working through our educational equity policy, our procedures, and in this tumultuous time. As we hear rumors, we want to make sure we provide for our parents and our board. If you ever hear a rumor, if you let Mike or I know right away, we can research it. We can have police involvement if needed, and it will be where we can dispel it. As we hear rumors after the fact, someone stayed home for school because of a fear that we didn't hear about. They've missed an educational opportunity in a day of school. So if anything emerges, if you see something or hear something, say something, right? That's always kind of the pattern that we hope people will take. So anyway, just reiterating that caring environment, it has to exist for the kids to achieve well, right? They have to feel safe first. When we have for any crisis situation, we have a standard response protocol, and a lot of that comes right out of the safety committee that meets quarterly. It's basically an incident command sort of response. So we have a manual, we have incident command at a school site. The people in the schools know who that is and where they're supposed to be able to access a phone call, to be able to get communications clearly to the commander as they arrive at the scene, right? So all those stay the same. And we do have that in place. As a district, we do have that ongoing commitment to safety, obviously. You've all supported that, but Mike being here, we have SRO on the current campus. We have an SRO in the county. We have hallway monitors that actually are, some of them retired police officers who are really keeping an eye on everything. And they work really well. They're trained to support juveniles. They understand kids' mistakes versus a crime. They understand how to work with their families, and they're a consistent presence within our safety protocol. We also believe as a district in restorative practices, which means that when there is a misstep of some sort, we have to bring kids together and try to heal that situation so that the kids can move forward. And sometimes as adults, we hang on to something that happens with our child longer than the kids do. The kids kind of forgive and forget faster, than we grown-ups do. So we continue to work on that as a system as well. This year, as you know, we're implementing a wellness plan. So there's a certain theme across all the schools each month. and specific lessons being deployed. Preschool actually even started this a couple of years ago with a really great program that was, implemented throughout, and the kids started naming feelings and, all sorts of mindfulness practices, deep breathing, self-regulation, things like this. So we're trying, all of this helps to foster a safe environment and help kids grow up into healthy adults. A part of that protocol, as we look at things happening in the world right now, whether this was a fire, a natural disaster of some sort, war, any of these things can trigger a lack of safety, right? Kind of an upset in a student. And it could be because of a very personal connection to what's happening, or it might just be because kids are immersed in what's happening either in social media or the news. So what the National Association of School Psychologists puts forward, and kind of the brochure that we use or the steps that we use internally with our staff, is to reaffirm safety, make time if there is time needed to process and talk about a situation, make the time to do that, because again, until the kids are ready for an academic lesson, they're just going to be distracted by whatever's going on. Right, so sometimes you have to stop a lesson for a minute to be able to get kids back with you, perceive, acknowledge and normalize the feelings that are happening. Try to maintain a normal routine. Some people are saying, how can you just go about having regular school? That's actually one of the best practices, is to keep things as stable and consistent as we can. Obviously, the recommendations have been made, not just here, but to limit exposure to the media and social media when things are really quite explicit. As TV has become more and more, you can see violence, right? Very, they used to shield that a little bit, right? When I was growing up, it was like that was not until the 10 o'clock news. The 8 o'clock news, you wouldn't see stuff like that. Now it's a little different. You can see things all the time. So try to protect your kids from some of this. Monitor your children's emotional states. And know the signs and symptoms of more serious trauma reactions, so that we can help to teach coping strategies, adaptive strategies, and that we can help facilitate referral services when needed, because the school is not actually the one who provides all of the mental health supports. We just are trained to recognize when we may need to call in somebody who's more of a clinician who can see the kids one-on-one. Because as you remember in the school, again, we're just trying to get things normalized so that a child can access their education. If the student needs consistent counseling, that usually happens outside the school versus as part of the school day. So we don't actually flex our staff when there's a crisis. We use them differently. So while the typical protocol for a school counselor is to spend about 20% of their time on crisis situations as they emerge, friendship problems, those kinds of things, incidents on the playground, it might go up to 40% during these times of crisis. And then it goes back down to 20%, right? But it's a pretty consistent pattern. So we have put out some of these resources and ideas. It's really this National Association of School Psychologists and School Safety and Crisis resource that anybody can access, and has really good information that can be geared to a specific age range of student. The other free resource we have for parents through our district is parentguidance.org, which is a website that we've shared several times with our PTO families. But again, any family can use this, parentguidance.org. You do have to register and give some kind of email, because they will email you, but it is a free service. You can punch in, anxiety, and you can get a 5-minute video clip from an expert psychiatrist, psychologist talking about symptoms of anxiety and what you might want to do next. So that's a great free resource we have. It's the Cook Center for Human Connection, which is a Utah-based nonprofit that's provided really great service that's recognized nationally. As a district, our academic system that we talked about tonight, really exciting. The levers that I think are going to make the biggest difference is to continue the data-driven practice of really looking at where we are and where we want to be, kind of setting the target, really using research and evidence-based best practices throughout our academic system. And I really do think the district has for many years really had a high post-secondary readiness success rate. And I think we continue to champion that. That's that again is the indicator of that education is greater than some of its parts. And you start seeing the results there at the end of high school, which is amazing. You're seeing it throughout, but then you really get to see, as we all celebrate at graduation, all those success stories. from our students. The Inspiring and Supporting All Students Equitably Committee met in October, this week actually, and we're continuing our work with our external equity assessment that's moving forward. And we're analyzing outcomes data there as well. And then our committee has been working, they people volunteered to serve on different procedure writing committees. So they're in small groups and looking at the different areas of the strategic pillars and how we want that to look from an educational outcome lens. Carolyn can fill in more if she would like to when she presents later tonight. Mike referenced some of the OLAG, the Office of Legislative Auditor General had a report, and then it had 4 chapters or 5 chapters of suggestions, recommendations for us. So we have already done the first draft of the Environmental Regulations Governance Plan. We have already written the first draft of a facilities renovation or construction policy, because again, when we hire an administrator, we're more likely as an administrator to look at our policy manual first versus going into statute or going into regulations. So this would provide anybody that comes in an ability to look at that first and say, oh, before we dig anywhere, or before we build anything, these are the processes in Summit County or in Park City municipal area that we need to follow. For the strategic plan, you approved a partnership today for a group in Utah, an external group, to look at our strategic plan elements and then make sure we align it into the governor's office of best practices format. So they'll be helping us with that this year. And then there was actually also a celebration in chapter 5 on the use of predictive analytics. So that's where Stacy was talking a little bit about that. Green and the blue, are we hitting the standard or are we going above the standard? And what we've always known is that if a student is behind, we can't calibrate against them being behind. We have to grow them more than a year for them to be able to ultimately catch up to standard. So we do have a predictive analytics platform that allows us to do that. So those are the ways that we're addressing the OLAG reports. So we're hoping by the time they come back next year to check on everything, we will be able to very cleanly close out that audit report. And we are always very appreciative of all of our community partnerships, including the Promise Partnership, the Park City Ed Foundation, our community foundation, which helps us with things like RISE that you heard about last month, and then Recycle Utah, which provides such great lessons for the kids. So that is all I have this month, unless you have questions.
Good, thanks.
All right. Given that it's 5, do we have any public comments? No, okay. So, Kara?
Yeah.
You have some public comment?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Come up and join us.
Okay. Because they remind me of the process. Do I need to sign?
You can fill out the blue form at the end.
Okay. Oh, that's service right there.
Yeah.
Service is not. I just wanted to, first and foremost, thank the board for passing the equity policy a couple of months ago. Just as a parent, as somebody that's involved in education, means a lot. And as we are moving forward with realignment and the wonderful things that new facilities are going to bring, we just like to keep that equity policy as our North Star in determining the programs, services, things are going to be offered in those new spaces. And that how that equity policy can help inform our commitment to the whole child as part of the district's mission and vision. I just hope that the district will continue to ask and listen to students, caregivers, families about what needs they have related to wraparound services and other supports that the district can provide. And also continue to utilize all those wonderful partners and with many more that Dr. Gilday shared in that last slide. Our schools by nature meet families at the point of their needs, and the pandemic made it painfully clear how important those services are and that it takes the whole community. It's too much to ask our schools to go it alone. So that's just what I wanted to say about that. And thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you all for your service.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Karen. We will go to 4.01 district facilities update.
Okay, just quick update on our construction progress. I want to remind the public and the board that with all schools, our projects have been planned to minimize educational impact and ensure safety for students and staff, and minimize traffic and parking disruption. Weekly construction meetings are held with architects, builders, and district staff to ensure timely coordination and decision making. And MOCA, our owner's representative, is also conducting bi-weekly owner meetings for important updates and decision points. As far as the schools, Park City High School is permitted. Full construction is underway. It's on schedule. Right now, we're concentrating on new utilities, relocations of those utilities and connecting them up. Structural steel is being put in place. You're probably train out of the high school this week. Columns and beams are going in place, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing supporting the facilities is being put in place. We're still planning on a spring of 2025 substantial completion date. Eckerd Middle School is permitted. Full construction is underway. It's on schedule. We're in the process of forming and pouring footings and foundations for the expansions. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work and the HVAC and fire systems are all being installed. Tile installation and finishing trim the kitchen and serving areas is also being installed. The kitchen, as I mentioned earlier, and most of the gym will be returned to normal ops next week. And church property closed about 2 weeks ago. Finally, we own that. Substantial completion there also is spring of 2025. Jeremy Ranch is permitted. Full construction is underway. It's on schedule. Work is progressing very nicely there. Crews begin placing the finishing roofing components in place. Interior framing and material, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing interior developments continue. All exterior concrete hardscape site work is complete. The windows and exterior architectural components are being installed. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment is being evaluated for bid or state contract purchase, and I'm meeting for that as soon. Substantial completion there is the summer of 2024, so we'll be ready for the next school year. McPullen is permitted. Full construction is underway on schedule, and work is progressing very nicely there. As exterior siding and architectural building components are installed. Interior framing and drywalling is underway, as well as mechanical, electrical, plumbing, interior rough-ins, and exterior hardscape concrete work. Windows and frames are being installed, and the rooftop air handle will be installed this week. You'll see it bring out there probably tomorrow. And we're also installing new site fencing and paving the new east parking area. Again, just like at Jeremy, the furniture, fixture, and equipment is being evaluated for bid or state contract, and we're meeting soon to make decisions on that. And we had a group of about 2 folks just did a walkthrough at 3 o'clock today, and pretty impressive the work that's being done. It's a lot bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside. Substantial completion again, summer of 2024 for the fall, and be ready for the next school year. Harley's Park is permitted. Full construction is underway. It's on schedule. Interior work is underway. Sound walls are installed to minimize the educational impact. Builders are working closely with Principal Kim to minimize classroom disruption. Interior demolition of existing kindergarten and multi-purpose music rooms underway. Exterior demolition of some concrete, asphalt, and landscaping is also underway. And also working on the exterior relocation of the Breesinger sector in this week. Substantial completion will be October of 2024. Trail site, we already started our coordination with the county and the USBE for the project number. And the dates on that will be to be determined, but it's underway. Design work was resumed last week, and we anticipate the summer 2024 construction with substantial completion of summer of 2025. We reminder construction summary and layman's narrative is posted weekly on the district website. If you want to take a look at stuff and read it in non-jargon. And we also have JD, our district's owner's representative here tonight from MOCA for any of that question about the projects. Just a quick update on soil mitigation. Our materials management plan will be delivered to the DEQ by the 23rd of October this month. We're having a community involvement plan town hall that's going to happen on the 8th and 9th of November. The 8th will be our Spanish speakers, 9th will be for English speakers. Where we'll talk about the past, present, and future plans for the soil piles behind behind treasure. And hopefully we can put a lot of rumors to bed and pass a lot of good information along to that public. There is a partial removal action of a small pile possible, the 16th and 23rd of December, when kids aren't there, we might pull that small pile out if we're forced to by the DEQ. And the district has also been in communication with Senator Romney's office yesterday, requesting some relief of that timing that's being threatened to us by the DEQ. And also potential sources of some funding for some grants to help us pay for some of the expenses. Okay.
Sorry, you said it and it just didn't stick in my head. What did you say for substantial completion of the high school?
Substantial completion of high school is going to be summer 2025.
So Ecker and the high school, they're on the same.
Yep, along with trail site. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, student enrollment numbers.
Yeah, so we have our official October 1 count actually took place on October 2nd this year, with October 1 being on a Sunday. So just wanted to share some data with you on that on the first slide. I'm assuming that's next one. You can see that we dropped 104 students. And again, October 1 or October 2nd, that's a snapshot, right? That's what is on the rolls as of that day. So it's just strictly a student count. So we dropped from 4350 to 4246, 104 students, which ironically is the same number we dropped during the 21-22 school year. But about less than half of what we dropped a year ago. With our K-12 differential being around 200 students or just shy of 200 students, we obviously have migration that comes in, and I'll show you that on the survival ratios. From a funding standpoint, October 1 enrollment is used for districts that have growth. Our base funding is average daily membership, which generates our qualification for state dollars, which then is replaced by property tax dollars here locally. That's all calculated and recaptured. And so the October 1 numbers being down doesn't affect us directly with funding, except in the event that our ADM overall average daily membership decreases. Obviously, being a ski town, we have some migration coming in, workers and families that come in after the October 1 count that missed this. So our funding decrease may not be near as bad as with the 104 students. It's not as simple as taking 104 times the WQ value. This is kind of what I'm getting at. So on the next slide, it shows our survival ratios, we call them, between grades. You can see the lowest percentage is from birth to kindergarten at 83% for the 23-24 year. All of the others are either over 100% or just below 100%. So that's where I'm talking about the migration during the year. If all of those numbers were 100% increase, our difference would be the K-12 differential plus the migration that comes in. And so we'd have a better October count with that. But again, I think some of those come in later in the year. So overall, so survival ratios and the trends and the averages there is something that we'll use to come up with how many instructional stations we have, and open and closed schools, and to meet those requirements of the law moving forward, which we'll talk about in a second. On the next slide, you can see kind of the projections right now, and we are anticipating still some of the migration. Obviously, there's construction going on. There's some low and housing developments happening. There's obviously new ski runs taking place, which is going to require more workers. And all those things taken into account, looking at the next 5 years, which is a throwing a dart at the board outside the survival ratios. We're looking for under 100, a decrease of each year of less than 100 students is what we're projecting. So we'll formulate that, calculate that for next meeting, and use those projections.
What we can see in the earlier slide and this one though, is that you can see our K5, K6 numbers. You can see we're in the 200s. And then, the higher grades, right, 7 through 12, we're in the 300s or even the 400 there. But you can see kind of that bubble of the over 400s, it's kind of moving through the system. And so we really are looking at, and so when Caitlin and Bruce Brains, the CIO, did kind of the analysis of what's really happening here, it's just that fewer young kids are moving in or are joining the system. and more kids are graduating out, and that's been consistent for the past 5 years. So when we had that little pandemic bubble and we had some people come in, it kind of masked this a little bit. But when we did our planning for the facilities, we knew these numbers, and that's why we knew that making the 6, 7, 8 school and the 9 through 12 school, we're not going to be supersizing the schools. They're actually going to be the same number, about the same number that we have now. We're just going to be serving 3 grades in the middle school and 4 grades in the high school. So you're going to see in the first couple of years, a little bit bigger school, maybe the 1,400 or, well, we could add it up, right? So if we look at 400, we're going to have maybe almost 1,600 the first year that the new high school's open, but that will drop, as the years go on. So you're going to end up with about a 1,200 in high school with the 4-year program. So, so we did that design knowing that these were the projections, and that the community had a strong preference for the preschool expansions at each site, because we send the kids with your siblings sometimes on the bus. And that way they have a big brother or sister nearby, and that's just part of the neighborhood school dynamic. So we have those expansions to be able to take care of universal preschool, and if these are our numbers, we may very well be able to do.
Yeah, you can see the 25, 26 years of the year of the reconfiguration, that's where that box is highlighted. So you can kind of see those 400 size classes, 400 student size classes going down.
When does the tech park development come online? When's that expected? Is that 28, 29, or is it before that?
Yeah, I'm thinking 27, 28, actually.
So I mean, because that isn't factored in here, right? I mean, that's probably 500 kids.
So we've been conservative with this as far as both decreasing and increasing until we get closer to those dates. So you'll see that reflected more in the enrollment projections. So to go out more than 3 to 5 years is somewhat problematic.
Right, but don't we know what's permitted, right? Like at some point that's being built. Whether it's in 2 years or whether it's in 5 years, we know that that's happening. Right?
Yeah, the question is going to be is what's your average number of students per location, right? Per dwelling. So yeah, so we'll definitely be researching that more overall. So the next slide is just reflecting what the superintendent just shared. So this is a slide that Andrew Brink put together and his team. So you can see the light blue coming down with the classes down, the 400 student classes. And on the projection on the previous one, you can see the very last one in 28, 29 year, everything except for 12th grade is below 400. So this slide is just showing what the superintendent just alluded to. So with that information, the November 14th board meeting will have updated estimated enrollments by grade by school. So you can kind of see what we're anticipating each school, where they're going to be. Our instructional stations are counted. We're calculating those now in our current year class sizes, so we can talk about open and closed schools and give the data to the board so you guys can make the decision that needs to be made as far as the following year. The open enrollment period starts November 15th, so that'll be the day after the 14th board meeting, and goes till February 2nd, which is the first Friday in February. So we'll have that information in preparation for that decision at that time. Any questions?
None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Back to sign in student services.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm excited and have the privilege of talking about our pre-K centers at McLean and Given Rich. So we're excited about these additions, the expansion of pre-K for 4-year-olds, creating before and after school for pre-K, wraparound services, including outreach, rotation services for our community partners, multi-purpose space, parent education, community ed spaces, and the food pantry for our students. I feel like we are dedicated to making sure that we're providing early learning opportunities for all students. As we see our pre-K does not represent our student body, and helping with these pre-K and offering before and after, and will help us identify students that might need a little early education. So at 3rd grade, that we can hopefully get them to really out there. So here are the designs. These are the most updated designs of both. They're exactly the same during the Island, just might be on the opposite side. Which I'd like to point out the awesome OT and PT space for the whole school. It's amazing to have a space. Will be, awesome space for our students. We saw the rooms I toured today, which is very exciting, the learning, the classrooms, the learning studios are huge, the multi-purpose room was so big. But also giving that community education room for Todd and his team to make sure we're providing education to our adults as well. And then there are all those red offices, and I see that as where our community partners can come in and have a space and a rotation of Hope Alliance in there, so we can provide vision screening or people's health clinic for. And then the pantry that I mentioned, the food pantry for our students is also right there right around the purpose room.
What I really loved in walking through today was you could have some of the community ed components or the consults going on without interrupting or having to be led into the school. So you can have some community things going on, and that's protected with the vestibule, to be, if you notice, right, you have to go through the common space to get into the actual school building.
And that will be locked.
Yeah,
right.
good security. feature.
Yeah, it'll be locked with a badge, a fob entry, or the receptionist would be able to let people in if we did go to the pre-K side.
Great storage and great playground space too.
Yeah, the storage is huge. Wendy, your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this. This is great to see. So just to be clear, because we had some questions about this. The area that would involve the wraparound services that the community so clearly was excited about for this master plan
Yeah.
are the red spaces.
Correct.
Okay.
Living room and community ed.
And
Yeah, the big community and
This
rooms.
Okay, so then, and the idea is that they apply for that space, or what practically, what are we
I
thinking that
envision
works
it
like?
as a sign up, like if, let's say, I said Hope Alliance, just because we've been partnering with them, let's say Hope Alliance said, we'd love to have a space for 6 to 8 weeks where we could provide vision screening for the families and students and families, twice a week from 4 to 7. So that space would be available to them, and then we could rotate them out and look at another partner to come in to do the same thing. If it's a dental to do the cleaning, people's health clinic,
So it's rotational space, and
Will you envision like one community partner in there?
or vision like that there would be at least 3 of those. It's hard to tell yet and how
Yeah,
much interest
yeah.
we're gonna have.
Mhm.
But I envision at least 3 of those red rooms.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just
really nice to have design space to do this, because right now the way schools do these wrap services is that, maybe you're in the library, so you're taking up the library space, or maybe you're in a hallway, or maybe you're using the nurse's office, right? So it's gonna be really nice to actually have places that both Jeremy and that that can be centrally, located either the city or the county, and then be able to do some of these extended day things.
Sorry, one last question about the pantry. That's great. This will
Yes.
serve, because ECHA, we already have a pantry, correct?
they're small, even at the high school, it's small.
Okay.
I envision.
Is this for access for everybody across the district?
So I do envision it that way. So, nursing is one of my departments and outreach, and they ask me a lot. We need more money to support our students that are hungry in the classroom. So I see these two as being able to feed out to all 4 elementaries. And then I would also like to put one at the high school in the new teen center. So I'm looking, Dr. Gilday talked to a donor. I'm hoping to find a donor that would be willing to help us with those 3.
Additional spaces.
Yeah, to fill those student food pantries, because I don't want to take away from the Christian Center, where they have big pantry and they have lots of fruit, like I'm thinking more of. Kansas soup, macaroni and cheese, but also
Okay.
granola bars and that for our students that are hungry in the classroom.
Yeah, okay.
And then just I wanted to end with, I know Promising Partnership has been working with Big Poland for many years, and they've been working this year and last year, and I attended one of their meetings, and all these partners were here, and I want to thank them for their dedication.
Great,
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have two policies for posting. Policy 10010, which is student enrollment, and then policy, unnumbered policy, but it's the environmental regulation plan in response to comments in state audit. So I will entertain a motion to post these two policies for the next 20 days.
I make a motion to post these two policies for the next 20 days.
All right, any questions or comments on these before we post them? Okay, all those in favor of posting these two policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those are passes. We have discussion 6.01 amended fees for Park City High School. We have a second reading of these, Randy, if you want to walk us through.
Yeah, so just an update, same information shared last meeting. We had, I believe, 10 activities, let's read them off: men and women's basketball, men and women's golf, men and women's soccer, men and women's wrestling, cheer, speech, and debate. Those activities, there's been some confusion that we found during our external audit as to what fees can and can't be charged. And so we're just bringing those sports / activities up to what the fees that are being charged for the new first and second reading, an amendment to our fees. So that would require obviously public comment after this, President, as you're aware, for second reading, and then hoping for a board motion to approve those to get us in compliance.
Okay. So is this the same as
Yeah.
8.01 amended student fees? Or is this different?
Yes, yeah, so this is basically just letting you know what's going on, and we've got to have the public comment first,
Okay,
and then a motion by the board to approve
okay,
after the public. comment.
understood. All right, so we will, do we have any questions actually for Randy before we go into comment on this? All right, we'll allow public comment now on the amended fees, second reading. Do you have any public comment on the second reading of the fees? Does not appear we do. All right, we'll go to decision 8.01 amended student fees. So I will entertain a motion to approve the amended student fees that is listed on board docs.
I make a motion to approve amended student fees.
Okay, do we have any discussion on these? What did we do with the athletic training?
Yeah.
So we're giving them budget
Okay,
of $32,000, and they're handling that within they're handling that within the money that's existing plus the 32,000.
Okay, so it's not.
There's no fee for that.
Okay, perfect. Awesome, thank you. All right, any other questions on that?
nope,
All right, all those in favor of passing the amended student fees, please say aye.
aye.
Aye, okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn till our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is November 17th at 4 p.m.
Make a motion to adjourn until November.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thanks. You want to hold it?
You, where?
Yeah,
I was-
he said it was the months, but I'm gonna need to know.
I mean, I saw it. I saw 20 at MSG. It was unbelievable.
Well, they had the reputation they had.
They're honest.
My son, that's.
Five?
He was like, mom, and my sisters, who are ones in her fifties, well, in her fifties now. She was like, mesmerized, I mean. It's unbelievable.